We were doing an ad on that show for a company that does like natural once a day brain supplements, like very good for you shit. And they were like, yeah, like we don't want to give you a read or anything. Like we want it to be organic, like bring it up in the conversation. And like we're talking about, there's a scene in Bum Fights 2 where a guy is trying to pull his tooth out, and so he has it tied to a cinder block, and he's sitting on a ledge, and he keeps throwing it off, and nothing. And so he's like, well, get me some vodka. So they get him some vodka and a bottle of orange juice, and he takes a swig of vodka, a swig of orange juice, and like swishes it around to make a screwdriver in his mouth and then swallows it and then just straight up rips the tooth out. And I'm like, and when I need the strength to do the impossible, I reach for a shot of and like they just hated that shit.
Hello everybody and welcome back to another beautiful episode of Inappropriate with Jim and Steve. I am Jim.
And I am Steve.
I say this all the time, Steve, that we have such a special episode. Today, I kind of actually mean it.
Thank you.
We're doing something different.
I bet you say that to all the girls. Yeah.
We're evolving. We're taking the next step. We never do Zoom or over the internet or over the phone style podcast. You have to be in the studio for the podcast or it doesn't work.
We have to chauffeur you to the to the studio in order to do it.
We shower you with natural lights.
I send you guys my comfort rider. I have no sparkling water. I have no...
The third voice you are hearing is not Joe from Jim, Joe, Steve show. It is a special guest, Ryan Lichten. And let me say this, Ryan, before you get into your spiel.
I legit thought he was going to fuck up your name. I was like, he's going to start this off so bad.
A fringe historian and a Hollywood outlaw.
Yeah.
I wish I could write a log line as good as that.
It sounds cool to like dudes, but like try using that same line on like a dating app. Not the same respect. Yeah.
So to cue everybody in on why we have a third person on our podcast, I think I briefly touched on it a couple episodes ago.
Yeah.
I found the old footage from my Woodstock trip, and I started throwing it up online. So many people just told me, you have to go on this podcast 99. It's a very subculture podcast. Would you agree to that?
I would have until Netflix did it.
Okay.
You know,
fair enough.
And HBO and stuff. Then now it's like, you know, and then TikTok, I mean, and everything like went crazy for like a month for Woodstock 99. So now I feel like it's just in the ethos.
That makes sense.
I mean, until that happened, I mean, if you wanted to know more about Woodstock 99 than what you could find on YouTube, and even guys like you weren't posting their videos yet, we were it. You know what I mean? Like, it was Podcast 99. There was one other Woodstock 99 podcast that started before us where it's not good, and they had like 9 episodes. They stopped like years before we started. So I was kind of bummed. But then The Ringer did one too. They did like a short series on it, like when we were halfway in. So when Vice magazine did like a 20th anniversary of Woodstock story, they included like us in that. And I was like, oh, fuck. Like, yes.
Dude, that's
so
awesome.
That was kind of like... That was like the jump off, like, for sure. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely like a fringe topic, at least as far as we've gone into it, for sure, you know?
Right. And so when I found all the like my tapes, and it was like, oh, that's cool, you know, something I did, 25 years ago. And I had no idea really what I was going to do with it. So I just like, you know what, I'll just kind of post it. And then as I was downloading the tapes, I, was separating them from... Because there was about 6 tapes or maybe 8 tapes total. And I was like, I was just going to upload each one as kind of one episode. And then I thought, if somebody wants to watch Jewel, they might not necessarily care about watching like Rage Against the Machine's performance or care about me farting around with the people that I went. So I kind of started like changing them up and uploading each individual performance. And, I found that Woodstock 99 page, and I was like, these people are, are
They're
active,
like me.
active every day. 25 years later, there's still posts every single day on this group. And I thought, these people might appreciate it. So I threw the first one up, and immediately people were like, you have to go on podcast 99.
It's funny, that Facebook page has given us so many guests, but also there's people that I have legit 5 years have been playing tag with to try to say, oh yeah, I want to be on it. I was like, okay, send us an email. Well, really what happened was I was like, oh, great. Yeah, no, but here, send us an email just for years. But, what you were saying about how not everyone that wants to see Jewel wants to see Rage Against the Machine and then wouldn't want to see some guy farting around. I'm the guy. I want all of that. I'm more interested in the farting around in Jewel than Rage, to be honest, because that's what everyone talks about with Woodstock 99.
Right.
They talk about the Limp Bizkits, the heavy stuff, the corn, all that. But I'm more interested in, like, what did you eat? Like, where did you poop? Like, what did you know what I mean? Like, that's the stuff I like.
I 100% agree, because everything's been documented with, like, the fires being set, Limp Bizkit and all the different bands that played. But in the weeds is what you want to know. Like, what did you do when that shit was on fire? To your point, how'd you go to the bathroom once the toilets were overflowing or the porta potties were overflowing on day one? Like, what did you do? So
yeah, it's why I've done so many of these interviews now that, like, I can follow the pulse. Like, I know when the bathroom question is going to happen because you went through you had the 99 treatment. So, it's like, I always start like, what were you doing before? When did you hear about it? Blah, blah. So I know, like, I'm tracking in my head, like, how long from when he left the house is he going to have to take a shit? And then I'm like, and then I find the point in the interview to bring it up. But yeah, it's like, that's the kind of stuff that no one talks about. And I mean, that's the best part about talking to people that went is, you're going to have all that in-between stuff, because like you just said, if you watch any documentary, it's going to have the bands being interviewed and it's going to talk about what was going on, like, at this time and this day, but not from the perspective of someone, 150,000 people back that's, like trying to figure out where they're going to go,
So I want to dive into the podcast 99, and I know you have culture dumps, which I want to also get into because I'm kind of very intrigued with that.
I'm all about culture dumps because
thanks.
He's got questions.
I got questions.
Good. Yeah. Great. No. Yeah. No, we got a good one coming up too. I'm after this. I'm writing the final paragraph of what is one of my most researched topics ever. So
really?
But anyways, dude, big time.
I think I am on episode 83, if I'm not mistaken. But you also have Instagram pages for both, and you have anybody that knows what I look like from my little caricature on our thumbnails every week. Can you plug for right now, the Podcast 99 Instagram?
Yeah, it's just at Podcast 99. I mean, when we started getting kind of, I don't want to say the end, because obviously there's no end in sight really, but when we got to the end of doing it like research based, we're talking about the bands or something that happened, or I'm pulling up police reports and stuff like that, we had the idea to do, we always had the idea to do another show, and we had to make a decision. We're like, okay, well, we have such good traction with Podcast 99. Do we want to just use the same Instagram, change it, the same accounts for everything? And I realized we've put in so much work covering Woodstock 99 that it would tarnish the legacy, so to speak, to cloud it with other stuff. Because truly, not to toot my own horn, toot, but like what we've done is we have made the most elaborate and in-depth coverage of that festival of all time. No one can top us.
100%.
And no one will be able to. And so I wanted to keep it as a place just for that. You know what I mean? Like, you guys know podcasts are evergreen. Like, people are always going to find it and start from episode 1, even though that was maybe 5-6 years ago, whatever, so it's new to so many people. I just didn't want to cloud it. So Podcast 99 is sacred. That's our baby. We say that Woodstock 99 is the ultimate culture dump, and that's why it got its own series, because it would be a total disservice to do that in like a 3 or 4 episode thing.
What made you decide to just start doing something about Woodstock 99?
It was a weird time. This makes it sound so fucking dramatic, but it was a weird time in I can cuss, right?
Yeah.
Last week we talked about
a guy I know that he banged an 80-year-old woman and she shit on him in the tub.
Oh, great!
So,
yeah, I just saw a dog
it's
take
carte
a
blanche.
shit.
You can say whatever.
I opted for a cake for dessert tonight because I saw a dog shit in the ice cream aisle. So I was like, looks like it's cake tonight. But no, so in 2018, I was in bands for a long time. That was my big creative output. I was in all different kinds of bands. The last band I was in was kind of like comedic. We did a lot of like videos and stage antics and things like that. And that band ended, and then I really wasn't doing anything. And a good buddy of mine, Josh Evans, who I started the Podcast 99 with, he moved into town from Georgia. And we were going to start a band. And I was all excited about that. And one day we're just having beers or whatever. And out of the blue, he's just like, dude, do you ever get into Woodstock 99? Which is crazy because I had the DVD, like the official DVD forever. And I had been researching just, casually Woodstock 99 since I was 10 years old. And I was like, dude, I know everything about Woodstock 99. And he's just like, oh, that's fucking hilarious. And we started watching videos that we had never seen. Like we had never really, like we had only watched like the VH1 spots on it or whatever. We hadn't actually watched a full set or anything. And we go on YouTube and there's every band set. And he's like, dude, I have a buddy that said that there should be a podcast about Woodstock 99. And we totally just took that guy's idea, but which he was fine with. We cleared it. He's like, no, I have no interest in doing it. It was just something I said I would listen to. So we started it. Neither of us had ever done a podcast before. We didn't know how to do. I didn't have any recording equipment, anything really. And our buddy Gray Holger, we had talked to him about it at the bar one day, and he's just like, oh, I'll produce that. So then we got our buddy Parks Miller, who's now my co-host of Culture Dumps. Him and Josh were in a band, and he was like, oh, I'll do that because he's a big music historian guy. And yeah, we did it, and it's funny. I was like, okay, well, maybe we should start with each of us writing an intro. So we did, and that's why if you listen to the first episode of Podcast 99, there's like a section where we read, and it sounds so bad. Like, it's so funny. We've come so far. But, like, we were wasted, too, dude. We were, like, maybe 6 or 7 each deep.
It's the same thing that happened with that our first episode of our podcast is we had no idea. We were just like, I think this will be funny. And we had a practice episode. But then the episode, we were laughing so hard, we were like, let's just put that out. And we didn't even intro ourselves. We just we just started talking. And it's so kind of cringy on our end, but like so funny because it's so raw that like I wanted to take it down at one point because I'm like, we're so much better than this now. But for us, it shows like how far we've come. So like for you, like to be like, all right, we're going to actually write something down for our first episode. You were already like 30 episodes beyond what we were able to possibly do.
As soon as you said that, I was fucking impressed. I was like, he wrote fucking something down?
We knew that we were going into it covering a topic, and there was going to be research done and stuff. So it wasn't just like, what do we talk about today? Like, we knew, and there was and Woodstock 99 was a festival. There's a schedule of events, and there's a timeline of things that happen outside of that lineup, So it's
that makes sense.
The structure was there, and we knew we had to follow it, but we didn't hit record. So we did this whole fucking thing, and we're like, oh man, that was epic, bro. It wasn't as bad as we thought. And then Gray's like, fellas, and like that is. So we had to sit.
That is the scariest thing to fucking happen is when you don't hit record.
Your heart drops out of your chest because you're like, there's no way we can duplicate like the realness that just happened.
But it was at the end of the day, it was a beneficial thing because it's like, okay, now we got one out of our system. So really, this is our second time doing this shit. We got this. And that's what you're hearing on that first episode. And then, we had to figure out, okay, how are we going to structure this? And all that was on me, So it's like, not that I'm like complaining or whatever, but that's just my brain, And so I'm like, okay, well, then the next one we'll do the history of Woodstock. And so that was tons of research. But Josh and I, we would record something and then we'd come back to my place, watch whatever applied to the next episode, take notes, talk shit, drink beer, whatever else we were doing. Things got really crazy. We were like fucking the Motley Crue of podcasts for a second there. And I mean that in all the worst ways. But like
smacking girls with fish.
before we were even big groupies. No, not even close. But it's like, so we start getting into the groove. And then finally it became time to cover the bands. And with the bands, that was like, okay, we're going to cover 3 bands an episode, East stage, West stage, emerging artist stage. You take this one, I take this one. And that was really easy because it's not scripted. So we would just make bullet points, of the band's history. And then we would just riff on what we saw. And those were the funnest episodes ever because we would just get fucked up and like talk shit and Mystery Science Theater, Woodstock 99 stuff, basically, until we started doing interviews. Once we started doing interviews with people, then it became like, we should probably take this a little more serious because people are listening. Like we had Jenny Alescu on, who is, one of the big writers for Rolling Stone. She went on to be the editor of Rolling Stone. She's done documentaries. She's a huge fucking deal in music. And the fact that we got her on was crazy. And then we saw that we had 25,000 listens to that episode the day it came out. I was like, oh fuck, like time to, take it a little more seriously. And so we did, but then eventually Josh left the show. And then we finished it, but yeah, it's been crazy, and it just started just being bros.
Listening to Jim's episode, your interview style is, I think, really good because you have your points you want to like go with, and then you just let the person talk, which I think is an awesome way to do it, especially about a topic, and then you kind of guide it to where you wanted it, what you want to get into. Were you always like that, or at first was it just?
I'd always been, I went to school for journalism and shit, but like, and history, so there you go. But that had nothing to do with it really. Cause no, I had been interviewed before, and I always like for bands. And I had always said like, when I was getting into the podcast, like, I don't want to be like those fucking guys, but also like with something like Woodstock 99, the people that are listening, like most of them have listened to the whole show. They know just as much about the festival as I do because they've listened to everything that I've found out. So there's certain specific things that everyone wants to know. So I have to hit these things. But also, in one of our first interviews, I think it was with my friend Pony, who we had on, Gray, our old producer, he told me specifically, he's like, Great job. My one thing, don't lead the witness. You know what I mean? Like, don't like try and get them to say something, like, because I was kind of doing that. I was like, but wasn't it really crazy? Like, you know what I mean? And I realized it's like, no, that's not everyone's takeaway, because I went into it like everyone else does with Woodstock 99, like fire, brimstone, rape, riots, pillaging, all that stuff. There wasn't the human side of it yet. For me, it was just everything that I had seen printed. And the more people we talked to, I think by the 4th attendee, not someone that was there to be a journalist, not someone that was working, but just someone that went as a fan. And I'm realizing these people didn't have a bad time. You know what I mean? Like, there was shitty parts of it, but like, people had fun. And like, this is like the best weekend of some people's lives. And I stopped going into interviews thinking like, I'm interviewing someone with like trauma and shit. You know what I mean? It's like I let them tell me, because some people that we've interviewed definitely do. You know what I mean? Like we've had women that, like we had a lady Brooke on, who got her ass bitten during the rave. Like that's terrifying, but it's like, but I don't,
guys
I don't
fucking
go
suck.
I know we're the worst, but so now I don't go into it thinking like one way or the other. And that's why I ask everyone the same questions the same way. And I've been doing that for the past couple of years, is because if I have, it's like a template, right? It's like, it's a questionnaire. Mm-hmm. So the questions are going to be different, for everyone. So I just kind of lay it out like that. And that's kind of how I created my style. And that carries on into all the other stuff I do in interviews now.
It's interesting that people are so nostalgic about Woodstock 99 that I remembered fondly. Coming on your podcast and there was some things that I would kind of mix up. Was that Friday or was that Saturday? But like overall, it was, I've had fond memories.
Yeah. That's another thing I stopped doing, by the way. I stopped doing that in interviews where someone would say like, oh, and then it was Saturday when I saw Jewel. I stopped because I would before I would stop them and correct them and be like, oh no, that was actually, I stopped doing that because it just fucks up the flow.
Well, yeah. You did let me know, because I think I forget what.
Jim didn't know when fucking anything played.
Because it was 25 years ago.
Exactly.
Looking back, I wish I would have had a steadier hand. I wish I would have been less drunk. I wish
I wasn't having so much fun.
I never thought about ever watching it. I'm recording it, but never thought about watching. But there was a couple of shots where I actually panned around, behind me, and there I zoomed in, and there was still a sea of people. And granted, it's like a high 8 camera, so the zoom isn't, phenomenal. But you got the perspective of just how many people were there and how many people were like vibing on the same song and singing along. And I don't think that we will ever get that again. Everyone is like watching the band, whereas now you go to a concert and people are taking their cell phones or selfies or recording this song or that song, or
right.
like they're doing other things. They're part of it, but that many people just focusing on the band, I don't know if you get a concert even close to that.
Yeah, I mean, the first time I went to a huge festival, it was Rock the Bells. I saw Rage, and but like I remember that's when it was starting, because cameras were so small at that point. So it's like it wasn't necessarily phone cameras. But then by the time I went to my first Coachella in I think 2008, I only went 2008 and 2009. But I was just like, oh. Like, you could already tell who was there for what reasons.
Sure.
So yeah, I mean, Woodstock 99 was probably the last festival of that magnitude and, media coverage and everything where that social media aspect, I'm taking pictures because it's all about my experience here. That was the last time where that didn't exist. You know what I mean?
You're right. It's like how people fucking record fireworks.
Oh God, that's
during
my
the
biggest,
4th of July.
My biggest
It's
fucking
like,
pet
dude.
peeve ever.
We've all seen fireworks.
Yeah,
right?
and
I can
who
get it
else-
if it's a concert, but
On the Limp Bizkit video, which is so funny, I would have never even did a double take on this, but I had zoomed in to the stage, and P. Diddy is off stage right,
Really?
watching Limp Bizkit, and there's like
Sexually assaulting somebody.
he was just finger banging just 2 women, like, and then
in a
punch one in
robe,
the face.
yeah, towel around his waist. Yeah.
Right. So it's just interesting, that entire
Well, Limp
thing.
Bizkit, specifically Limp Bizkit, when you watch it, there's everyone who was anyone that was there was on stage.
Yeah.
Like they were a big fucking deal. Like there's bands that played on the first day that stayed almost through the end of the second day just to be on stage for that. You know what I mean? So it's so crazy. I mean, we always call Limp Bizkit the godfathers of Woodstock 99. Like Fred Durst being crowd surfed on the plywood, that's the Jimi Hendrix Star Spangled Banner moment of Woodstock 99. Like we didn't get that. We got Durst on the plywood, and then with Woodstock 94, the redheaded stepchild that no one seems to talk about, like Green Day getting in the mud fight, that's the Jimi Hendrix moment. It just like every Woodstock has that cataclysm, but yeah, Limp Bizkit, man. But again, wrongfully accused.
It's funny that once Limp Bizkit did the like plywood, pull up the plywood, I went. There's a festival that used to happen here in Baltimore called the HF Festival, and they had it, and they put down the thing, and then it was every place you went, everybody's like, oh, they did this in Woodstock, we got to do it, and they would like lift it up, they would pull it up, and then like I'm the guy who was like, I'm gonna climb on top of it and see how far I can get, and I was just like, God, I just ripped that shit off just because I saw somebody else do it.
But that's how it happens. I mean, there's a lot of stuff like, a lot of the corporate aspect of Woodstock 99, you see that shit now. Like Woodstock 99 had their own calling cards that you would purchase from a thing to get loaded up to use their payphones, and there was specific phone banks that you could only use if you had purchased that calling card.
That's wild.
That is how every festival ever is run now, where you load up your wristband with their money, you know what I mean? And like you have to, like, it's the same shit. Like they were laying the groundwork for what things were going to be. We just weren't ready for I was 10. We just weren't ready for that shit, then,
Right.
like to be so like kind of prison systemed into having a good time, which is essentially what a festival is. It's the same way a prison works. You're taking care of a huge amount of people for X amount of time. Put the money on your wristband. You can only use that here. You can only do, it's the same thing. But they started
a lot more used to it now. Whereas Woodstock, I think everybody wanted to go into it with the original Woodstock mindset, right? Like that's kind of, you're never going to duplicate that, but it was that peace, love, freedom for 3 days. And then it was like, wait a minute, they're gouging us for $12 waters, in 1999. And then you didn't even realize in the beginning, it just slowly bubbled to the surface because people ran out of money. I believe it was just, every man for himself towards the end. And then I think it just got out of hand. But
yeah,
the most of the concert goers went into it with like, let's have fun for 3 days, get fucked up, see our favorite bands, and peace, love. It just
right. Well,
it just
I think
didn't happen.
The pricing and the sticker shock of it all, like a lot of that. I mean, it was bad. I mean, you were fucking there, but I also think there's a big aspect of a lot of people saw Woodstock 94 happening, and that was like such a cool thing, all these alternative bands. It was a way different experience than the original Woodstock and what it meant and everything. So it's like, oh, well, I wasn't old enough to go to that one. I'll go to this one without ever having been to anything of that size before. So you don't realize that you're getting dicked at those things no matter what. It wasn't just Woodstock 99. I mean, festivals fucking were expensive as shit. Like, they still are.
Yeah.
But it's just like, oh, what the fuck? Like, but it's the Woodstock branding that makes it shocking.
Yeah.
Because we think of it as, oh, well, it was free. It wasn't free. They just couldn't keep people out, so they just stopped trying to kick people out, at the original one. They didn't have any food. People almost starved to death. They were eating Dixie cups of fucking granola.
Yeah,
people were getting run over in their sleeping bag. Yeah, you know what I mean? It's like the original Woodstock fucking sucked.
And
like,
people died at the original Woodstock.
More than at 99. When you try and take something that was good and do it again, it's going to be bad. Copy of a copy of a copy. And then you have
a Fight Club reference.
Right, exactly. And then you have Columbine that happens, and it's like, oh, it was two teenagers that listened to heavy music and shit that did this. So it's like you have it really reflects what happened in '69 in a way where it's like the kids just aren't all right, and it's like that's played into the whole psychology of how we look at it now.
And that takes me straight to Culture Dumps, which I feel like that was a mashup of everything Culture Dumps is right there. What you just said, and for anyone who hasn't visited or knows about Culture Dumps, it's culturedumps.com. What episode are you on now that you just finised up?
It's gonna be episode 112.
Yeah, so you're rocking and rolling.
But that's proper because we do interviews. We don't count interviews as actual episodes, so we don't number them. So, but yeah, it's gonna be 112. It's anti-smoking ads. But there's a real, and again, the thing with Culture Dumps, it's not everything that we pick is us shitting on it or whatever, we saved Anna Nicole Smith for episode 100 through 104 because we really like her.
I saw that she got 3 episodes or something crazy. I'm like, Anna Nicole Smith gets this many episodes?
Oh, no, our original idea was to just do an Anna Nicole Smith podcast. It was going to be called Pickles, Pills, and Playboy.
Dude, I'm so all about that because when Anna Nicole was around, when she was in the Naked Gun, I think she was in the third Naked Gun movie.
Yep.
And then when she married that old guy, and the old guy would call her tits the rosebuds. Or something.
Yeah, whoa. Yeah. Again, it's that was our idea from the start was just to do an Anna Nicole. But I was like, awesome. That's not. We can't do 80 whatever episodes we've done of Podcast 99 about that. And then we started thinking about other ideas, right? Oh, well, Milli Vanilli, that's a great pop culture scandal. Beanie Babies, this, that, and the other. So then we just blanketed under Culture Dumps. But yeah, anti-smoking ads is what I've been really working on. Found out a lot of crazy shit, which is amazing. And we got a really cool guest for that, but I'm not going to say who yet, just because I don't want to jinx it. But that's supposed to be Friday.
Oh, okay. I was going to say we can't get an exclusive. I'll edit it out.
No, because I don't want to put it out there and then it doesn't fucking happen.
I hear
but
you.
Much like how I'm your guys' first remote guest, this is the anti-smoking episode is going to be our first episode where we have an in-studio guest host that doesn't know the show. They're just really successful comedians. So I was like, yeah, come on, great, I have this chance, great.
For all our listeners, go to culturedumps.com, peruse the episodes, the plentiful episodes, and it's pretty much, I mean, it was your log line. It's pretty much all the pop culture fringe things that everybody knows the title of whatever it is you're talking about. Every single episode, you go, oh, I know at least a little bit about that. You know, I've heard of that.
Like Easy Heinz ketchup, like that one. I was like, oh shit.
And it's like, what could a podcast possibly have to say about Heinz ketchup? But like, you dive deep into making it interesting as to why there should be a podcast episode dedicated to all these particular topics.
Going through your like catalog of different things, there one like hit me right in the face, and I was like, holy shit, I don't think anyone has ever talked about this aside from me. And then I was just like, I'm not the only one. It was bum fights.
Oh, dude, dude, we had a rare occasion where we had an ad sponsor on that episode, and they were not, they were bummed that we included them on that episode and dropped us because of that. Cause, but yeah, I mean, that's
here
the
today,
thing with Culture Dumps.
gone today.
yeah, exactly. Like, so with Culture Dumps, there's like, you know, we always, it didn't start this way, but I think around episode 30 or 40, we started introing every episode where it's like, why is it a dump? And then at the end, I try and do like a Jerry's final thought kind of thing. Like, what does it all mean? And it's like the bread, you know, of the sandwich. But yeah, it has to be something where it's just the title alone of what it is. Someone's like, oh, I remember that shit. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
Like just that alone gets you into it. And then if I'm looking something up, like, I mean, it's so easy. Like, we could just name shit that we remember all day. But if I start looking into it, and if I put in, like, say, you know, X, whatever we're talking about, Scandal, and I don't get anything. Like, someone said Chicken Noodle Soup for the Soul, those books, you know, and I was like, oh, that'd be great. It'd be better if there was some awful thing that happened. And if there hasn't been, or if there isn't some weird thing, then we won't do it, because then it's just talking about stuff, you know, and that's not what we do. And yeah, with bum fights, it's like, that speaks to like so many things that are happening now with social media, with like people like, even though it's kind of the opposite, I talk about it on that episode where it's like so many people get huge on social media, like giving back to homeless people, but it's so fucking vain and empty, and you're doing this for the views, and like how many like if you weren't recording on that one, do you just go to the next one and do it, or do you re-record? Like it's so bullshit, you know. And then like people fuck with each other. It's like this prank thing. But yeah, with bum fights, like that was like a certain kind of dude knew about that, you know. You're like, oh fuck yeah.
When you guys were going into just your your like jackass like names, and like it was like Crash with a K,
yeah.
and things like that, and I was like, holy shit, everyone did the same shit all the time. It's like
group consciousness, collective consciousness.
Yeah, and it was just wild, because I remember when Bum Fights came out, and I bought the DVD, and I could not stop showing it to people, and I was fucking obsessed with it. Like Rufus, when he's like has the broken leg, and he's like, you broke you broke your fucking pussy leg. Like it always, I still say that to this day to anyone who gets hurt. I'm just like, you broke your fucking pussy leg.
Pussy
every
leg.
single person. And
yeah, we talk about it. I mean, like, let me I'll just preface this. It's awful.
It is awful.
It's bad.
It is awful.
We know it's awful and it's
saying.
Bad. That being said, there are some like bling bling the crackhead, like that shit's like a fucking like that shit's fucking funny, like, you know. And then one listener sent us some DVDs that were from As Seen on TV ads after we did that episode, that he's like, I don't want these anymore. Like, I'm just glad that I found someone that would take them. How do I say this without saying it? It's titled J Abu Jones.
Oh, right? Okay, I got you.
Something Agu Jones.
Yeah.
And it's just this like black dude in the hood being like, here's how you break into a fucking car, and just like breaking like just like stealing cars and shit. I'm like, dude, and like you could buy like you'd call 1-800 fucking blah 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 Jones and buy that DVD.
Motherfucker Jones.
Yeah.
It was insane. You know, it was insane. But yeah, like, and that started this whole. I don't know if you guys have ever seen the movie Hobo with a Shotgun.
Yeah. I have not.
Yeah, they reference bum fights in that because, like, you know, there's the guy paying all the hobos to fight each other, and when he needs the money to buy a shotgun, he like does a tape for him, and he buys a shotgun and comes back and blows his brains out. But yeah. But yeah, no, we were doing an ad on that show for a company that does like natural once a day brain supplements, like very good for you shit. And they were like, yeah, like we don't want to give you a read or anything. Like we want it to be organic, like bring it up in the conversation. And like we're talking about, there's a scene in Bum Fights 2 where a guy is trying to pull his tooth out, and so he has it tied to a cinder block, and he's sitting on a ledge, and he keeps throwing it off, and nothing. And so he's like, well, get me some vodka. So they get him some vodka and a bottle of orange juice, and he takes a swig of vodka, a swig of orange juice, and like swishes it around to make a screwdriver in his mouth and then swallows it and then just straight up rips the tooth out. And I'm like, and when I need the strength to do the impossible, I reach for a shot of vodka. And like they just hated that shit.
But like, what else
Yeah.
did they expect, right? I mean,
That's
actually, the
Well,
price
they
what
probably
they-
didn't think you were going to do that episode with
right.
that.
Advertisers look at numbers strictly and Instagram. That's it. And so then they don't listen to your show. I'm sure they didn't even know that we were going to swear in their ads or anything like that. They don't care. You know, so, I mean, this one particular company, I'm sure others take it a little more seriously. But yeah, you know, Bum Fights was just one of those ones where I was like waiting for it. You know, like we have like a whole list of ones that are on the back burner, and like when I can't think of a good one or nothing strikes me, I just pluck one from the list.
Now you've had a lot of interviews on Culture Dump too, and you had William Hung.
Sure did.
I thought that was so awesome. How did you get William Hung? Just throwing like a life preserver out in the ocean and just seeing if he.
At that point in time in Culture Dumps, we were doing really well on Patreon. So we actually had an employee. We had a research assistant, and we were going to do an episode on William Hung. So I had her do the research, you know, and like she sent me like pages of fucking notes, and I'm reading through the shit. I'm like, oh, that's crazy. He was a fucking crime statistic and analyst, and like all like just like, crazy shit. But then I'm like, I started to write it, and I was like, I follow this guy. Like he's got like 4,000 like I'm just gonna send him a message. Just like that. Oh yeah, sure. And then he was fucking on, dude. And like I didn't have like it was great for me. I didn't have to write a script or anything. Like same thing with like the true crime trading cards. Like everyone talks about serial killer trading cards. I had one of the two women that created those on the show, and that saved me X amount of time doing fucking research and writing, you know? But yeah, William Hung, dude, that was fucking so killer. I couldn't believe, like, I was like starstruck through the screen, like, oh my God. And then to find out that he was like, and the funniest thing, like, I want to do like a recap on him because, you know, at the time he was like professional poker player, and he's just like telling me his gambling routine and what to look for and blah, blah, blah. And he's doing so good with it. Like a week later, like 2 weeks later on Instagram, like, so I've entered treatment. I have a problem with gambling. And I'm just like, oh, fuck.
If somebody was new to Culture Dumps and they said, I got time to get hooked on Culture Dumps with one episode, what episode would you recommend to be like, this is the one that represents Culture Dumps that will get you hooked?
Episode 1, I'm still really proud of. Like Culture Dumps is a rare thing because, like, from start to finish, I'm proud of it because I had all the time in the world to make all the mistakes that you would have made on Podcast 99. Sure. You know, so like episode 1, like Hands Across America, like it's a perfect fucking topic. Like it's like we had it nailed. Like the script.
I was part of Hands Across America.
Did you have to hold your hand?
I was
hands
so
with your dad?
hoping you were going to say Hands Across America because he did Hands Across America.
I held two strangers' hands when I was like 8 or 9 years old.
I love it. It was a long fucking time.
Yeah.
Like that's what
Yeah.
That was my biggest surprise. Like when I was researching that, I was like, damn, because I thought about doing it with my family, and I was like, if I had to hold my dad's hand for 15 fucking minutes, like Jesus Christ, like that's just weird. But yeah, no. So I mean, I'm really proud of that one.
Before internet. I mean, to get all that happening before internet was, I mean, really remarkable.
It's a feat of human accomplishment. It's definitely the pinnacle of humanity. Yeah, they made prisoners do it, dude. Like they're like.
I mean, we needed hands for Christ's sake.
Yeah, like free prison labor, dude. It's a problem. But yeah, it's like that one. I mean, the Jared from Subway episode, I was really stoked on. That episode. So by the time we did that episode, Parks and I had been working with a documentary company doing a documentary about Woodstock 99. And I knew, like, they told us, like, you know, we just found out Netflix is coming out with one, HBO's coming out with one. Like, we're fucked, basically. Like, it's going to get buried or whatever. It didn't. I actually saw it. They did a limited run of ours at Alamo Drafthouse, so I actually got to see it and see my name and credits. They misspelled my name. It was awesome. But at that time, I was like, well, why don't, like, I was like, Parks, like, let's just pitch them other shit, you know, just to keep this going. And I pitched Jared from Subway, and they're like, well, we would only do it if we could talk to him, like, or if you could get him to do an interview. So I wrote to him.
Well, you know where he's at.
Well, yeah, and I used to write to serial killers all the time because I worked for the Museum of Death. Yeah. So I wrote to Jared, and dude, like, him and I talked for like months, like, and he just wouldn't agree to get on the phone for a 10-minute, 15-minute interview, like, at all. Like, but I'll never forget it, getting because he was the first person I've written to in prison that has a shot at getting out. Everyone else are like lifers 100 times over, you know, but like cannibals, murderers, everything. But Jared, the first line was, "Good to hear from you. I messed up bad." It's like, yeah, no shit, bud. But yeah, I did. I asked him, you know what he said? I asked him like what his favorite movies were. Because that's the thing. When you write to someone in prison, you're just cold calling someone that you're trying to become quote unquote friends with.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, it's like a dating app almost. Like you just throw shit out there. And so we're talking about movies, and he said that his favorite movie was Shawshank Redemption. And I'm like, yeah, no shit. Like someone that's in fucking prison, like, loves the movie where the prisoner fucking gets out. Yeah, of course you like that. He also said Old School.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I'm glad it wasn't Spy Kids.
Old School was a bunch of old dudes
Anything
going
Shirley
back to
Temple,
college.
yeah.
Yeah, if it was Spy Kids, I would have been like, oh.
Yeah, I like Young School. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, that one, as far as like the beefier ones go, like, I think Beanie Babies is like one that everyone goes back to. Like, I was super stoked because Beanie Babies changed how we do research, because I actually like read a book for that.
Oh, wow.
Like, you know, and like I had to like really kind of budget my time a lot better, and how you know, because you could read 4 chapters or whatever, but then how do you retain that information to put it down later? Like, so I learned how to do all these different like kind of scholarly things through learning about fucking Beanie Babies.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's funny how, like, listening to your podcast, it will definitely make you want to listen to other ones, because like I was listening to the one about China, and I always was like, I may or may have not watched China's porn video, and then you were like during it, you were like,
penis?
there's we were like, oh, you know, we brought it up in the celebrity sex tape, and I was like, wait a minute, there's a fucking celebrity sex tape, which is like my all-time favorite things in the world.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like the dump universe, like we call it the dump universe because so many of these things are connected, right? Like we're doing the anti-smoking ads one right now. Like that's the one we're getting ready to record. But we had already done Joe Camel, and so many of those things, like those aspects of the story, like combine. You know, like we talk about like Joe Camel is kind of like the last pinnacle of great cigarette advertising, and it kind of that starts to teeter once you start seeing the commercials with the throat lady. Remember? Yeah, I ain't talking about, you know, your girlfriend from high school. I'm talking about the throat lady. But like, you know, so like that shit's kind of combined. So there is like a dump universe, you know, kind of keeps it in the toilet bowl, so to speak.
So before we wrap everything up, you are out in Cali. And where specifically? Like what town are you in?
Your exact address, please.
Yeah, I'm straight up in Hollywood, dude.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
Are you native or did you move there?
No, no. I'm from a place called Santa Clarita. It's like maybe like almost an hour outside of LA proper.
Okay.
So like suburb shit. It's like normal suburbs. Making jackass videos, watching bum fights with my friends, and skateboarding, and watching Woodstock '99 on MTV, and made it out to the nearest biggest city.
Is that the same name as a place in Lost Boys?
No, that's no. So that's Santa Carla.
I think you're right, Santa Carla.
But but that's based on Santa Cruz, which is way far up north. It's I hate that fucking area.
So when you're not doing podcasts, are you doing anything else? Like if I come out to Cali, we're gonna meet up. But where else do I see you at?
Oh, the bar for sure. But no, I mean I do stand up and stuff like that, and I participate in friends thing. I got friends that do, just about anything. That's kind of the Los Angeles kind of blessing and curse is, if you're worth your weight in salt in any aspect in something creative, a million people that do. So yeah, no, I was doing comedy for a little bit. I kind of slowed down on that. I was, going up at the Comedy Store and the Improv and open mics and things like that. And what else? We used to do live shows a lot. Like Culture Dumps has done live shows. Podcast 99's done a lot of live shows. Things like that all appear on other friends' shows and stuff like that. But also, I work for a museum. Like I do like public relations kind of stuff for a Western history museum. And before that, for about 10 years, I was working for the Museum of Death. So it's like I'm just a history guy, like whatever stuff I like. I try and find something that pays me in that.
Yeah.
And speaking of find, where can they find you on social media?
Yeah, so Culture Dumps is just at Culture Dumps, Podcast 99, at Podcast 99. If you want to follow me personally, I don't know why you would. I'm at Hollywood Hot Stuff, spelled how it sounds. But the shows are on every platform, so whatever you're probably listening to this on, you can find us on our patreon.com/culturedumps. That's where we pump stuff out there every week. So we have side series and everything else that we do on there. Woodstock 99 set commentaries, things like that. But with Podcast 99, as far as like official episodes go, it's just whenever someone contacts us, like you, and it's like, hey, I found your show, I went, and then we're like, okay, do you have a picture? That's always the first vetting question. Do you have a picture or a souvenir? Because we don't want anyone making shit up. Because we've had people offer that, like we would take that, or it's like, I could just come on and like just talk shit. I'm like, no, dude. Like,
yeah. We had a guy one time who was a professional.
Well, he was a don't. We had a guest on who could have been much more exciting, and was, I think, and you might know this. It is something about when you press record, people freeze up, and it's something about that when it's go time. Somebody could be so relaxed just talking, and then as soon as you press record, all of a sudden, like they can't fucking think of a goddamn thing to say. And it wasn't until like after we stopped, we were all kind of bullshitting. He had the greatest stories, and we were like, "Dude, where the fuck were you for the last 45 minutes?" And but yes, that we've come into that, and that's kind of the weird thing about having guests, right? You don't know where it's going to go, and it's like if it sucks, do you still put it out? Do you not put it out? Like, what do you do? Like, I can tell Steve he sucks, or he can tell me that bit didn't work, and then we can do that. But like, you can't tell guests. And luckily this episode has been good. So I'm trying to make it out to Cali, and if I get anywhere near LA, Hollywood, I'll ring you up. We'll go have a beer.
Absolutely. I can't imagine you would come out to California and not at least make it somewhere near Los Angeles. Where else are you gonna fucking go?
Awesome, man. Well, I tell you what, it's been like a real treat to actually hang out with you and me interview you for a change. So
yeah, I love it. I love it.
If anybody hasn't listened to my episode, which I don't know why you wouldn't have, but if you haven't listened to my episode on Podcast 99, I think it's James B. Survivor.
Yeah, it's the last one. Yeah, it's the last one we
that was just put up. And then after you listen to my episode, go over to Culture Dumps and have your mind blown with
Bum fights.
with more research on any particular, pop culture topic that you could ever even want.
Thank you guys for having me on.
All right, everybody. Thank you for listening to another episode of Inappropriate. It was kind of a special episode, Steve.
It was a very special episode.
Follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Inappropriate with Jim and Steve, and come back next week where it's probably just going to be me and Steve.
Maybe.
Who knows?
Maybe not. We'll find out.
I'm Jim.
I'm Steve.
See ya.